capstone class. We just finished what I'm calling week 14, but if you count spring break, it would be 15. So we call this day 15 in this course, but it's really only been 14 days. We looked at the design document. We talked about some tasks, work that needs to be done, and then at 9:30 we had the server update. Jesse Gobelai connected in, and we worked through that, and there's a number of things here. And I talked about a little bit of follow-up on some of these items. So I did mention AWS Foundations course. Students should sign up for that. It's available until the end of June. NDG is also offering the Linux 1 and 2 courses. Sign up through those would be through NetAcad. I would sign the students up, and so there's been a lot of opportunities, and these both are free up to a certain date. First of all, here's another color. We talked about some things in terms of what Jesse, we might want to ask him about, the process, how he's documenting it, how we're going to test it, timeline, how many VMs, what we do about updating, server 2019, remote access. We talked about services, DHCP, talked about services. Yeah. DHCP. We talked about possibly NetLab. We talked about DNS. We didn't talk much about VPN, but yeah, these were kind of the questions we were going to talk about. So let's see where we touch upon those things. So, naming services, so naming the devices, we told he can move forward. We've got our a VM for updating, 16 gig of memory for that. We have the Active Directory, which will be running these services. That's a VM, 24 gig of memory for that. File servers, I don't think he's set up yet, but students and staff, access to those. Maybe use a similar naming convention that they're using at the college, except put the IT in front, IT-NIA, and then give it what kind of server it is, and then a number. We are still using the tower on the floor as a backup machine, and it's running Active Directory, it's also running DHCP and so forth. Okay, so moving forward, we talked about, let me highlight this in red, put these services on the G9 will be our main, and then use the other G9 as backup. They don't have any hard drives, so we have to think about how we manage that with the Nimble. 14 terabytes, and so we told Jesse, I said it's okay if he reprovisions some of that for make it work with what they need to work with. We talked about some other things, VPNing in, maybe to the G8s. We also talked about Ice Ring from Iowa State. Put that on a G8. We would maybe this lab work for the Windows classes. We could also put that on a G8. He's already, I'm going to switch back here. He's already moved the vCenter He's already moved that. I believe he said to a G9. Okay, so Jesse's made a lot of progress. We still have a long ways to go, but I think in visiting we have a pretty good start, and then the students need to report back on all this work in a report. And then we're going to see if we can get Jesse to be online for a brief update next Friday. Now, what the students did do, we talked a little bit about workstations, dual boot, what software, how you would get those set up in the fall. They turned in the asset work, and Chris was going to notify Newman, and on Friday we're going to do a little work on what kind of plan we would use going forward for Newman. So things we haven't satisfied remote access or VPNs yet for sure. We're still waiting for prices for NetLab. So yeah, there's questions, and a big part, let me add a page here. So a big part of what we still need to do, okay, so Jesse's working on the backup idea, and we said storage later. It's not a priority now. We don't store much on there locally for the students. The switches, we need the physical. We need the physical connection, and there's configurations that need to be done on those switches. So that would be an area, I don't know how soon, but Jim Deegan could help with that, or once we're able to I can go in and we can start getting those physically connected. We may need some wiring in order to finish out that work. Yeah, we also have the remote, how we want to do that. So we need to plan that out some more. Currently, to access the network equipment, we're fine because we totally avoid any of the server equipment. But we'll want to remote in for the NetLab Plus, okay, and some other lab work that the students are doing. So we have to determine how we want to do that. Here it looks a little messy, but we talked about the lines connecting. There's 4 lines connecting PC 229 to this wiring closet, and then there's 5 lines, one another, 5 lines. So we go, this wiring closet connects to it doesn't directly to MH140. It actually goes to the wiring closet, and then there's a couple wires that go from the wiring closet to MH240. But it's in the back of 216. 216 has a couple wires that come back to this wiring closet in 228. Yeah, there is actually kind of a big wiring closet right there, and then there's the rack in 240. So it's really, those are separated. So all of these lines really go to that wiring closet. They don't go directly into 240. Yeah, it'd be like this wiring closet here. There's a rack in 229. In the future, we're going to have these wires going to the printer. We have our connections back to 228. These are a couple ports that the students put in the wall. And then we have a whole array of wires that go out to the tables in the room that connect all those PCs. Okay, there's a couple PCs by the rack and so forth. Now, in 216, I should put a box around there, 229. In 216, we have a rack in the front, and there's a couple lines that go back to 228, the wiring closet, so that's how it connects back in. We'll do a little summary of this. There's these tables in the back that have switches sitting on them. They connect back to the rack, and then we have, all the tables. Okay, there's 4 rows with 6 computers on each. 24 computers. There's 24 cables that go to each row of tables. Okay, there's a switch over here. Here would be the windows, and so we have computers lined up on this counter, and that's connected there also. MH240, we got that rack with all the servers. There's a couple connections that go into this wiring closet. And that wiring closet then feeds the other wiring closet, which then feeds some different classrooms. It made sense when they first designed it, maybe not so much now. Wrap up. Be patient. If your mentors aren't getting back to you, I will contact the mentors and thank them and just give them a little background on where we're at. This Friday, we'll look at creating a Newman plan, something we can give them as far as some steps moving forward. We'll see if Jesse has anything for an update. We'll review the work you've already done, turned in, and you'll create the final report. And then there's a little bit of time for course evaluation. Now, during the week, if there's things, you say, well, I'm doing this report, these are some things we worked on together, I've got some questions, shoot them out to your peers, okay? Or if you have specific questions that you want me to answer, just shoot me, and make sure when you turn everything in, or when you give me copies, make sure they're PDFs, and you say, well, my software creates this really cool diagram, but doesn't download as a PDF, which I find it hard to believe, but that could be. You could just, take a screenshot or take a picture of that and put it into a Google Doc and then save it as a PDF. Alright. Again, any issues, make sure you communicate. That's it.